Hey, so I saw some ideas for my fireplace where it was like a bronze or brass look. And the fireplaces I saw on Pinterest, they kind of beveled in. So that's the idea that I was going for this fireplace, because when we purchased the house, this fireplace had to go. We already started demolition when we first purchased the house. And because it was about 6 feet tall, it was just way too tall to put a TV up there. So we had a crowbar and a sledgehammer, and we just went in with the sledgehammer, got everything loose, and took the crowbar and pried all the stuff up off the ground and off the sides of the wall. And just be careful when you're prying stuff, because stuff may be attached different ways. No, I know the top of our fireplace was attached by bolts, so after we got it loose off the wall, we actually had to pick it up off the bolts. And for the sides of the fireplace, there was brackets, and it was mortared and also attached with screws. So we took the screws out and then continued with prying it off the wall, and everything was fine after that. So right here you can see on the left and right sides of the fireplace, there are some like brackets, and that's how we... So here is where we were finished with all the demolition, and what you're going to need is a wet vac, or just something to just vacuum up all the fine particles after you removed all the fireplace. And you're going to need the dust bag attachment. I did not know that, so I just had the filter, and I thought the filter was going to catch all the particles, but no, it didn't. It just went back into the air, and it was just kind of lost cause. I just kept on vacuuming, trying to vacuum the air, and no, get the dust bag in there, and that will help with everything. It won't be in the air, it'll just vacuum it all up, and that will be really good when you put the drywall up there. So when making the frame, I knew I wanted the fireplace to be 5 feet wide, 4 feet tall, and 8 inches in depth. So I already pre-cut all my wood off camera, and when making the frame, I added supports just to make the frame a little bit more sturdy, but you don't really need that many because it's not supporting anything. And when I made my bevels, it was nothing that I pre-made, like I wanted it to be 45 degrees. I just made an angle that fit from the outer part of the frame to the inner part of the frame that goes around the existing fireplace. So when making those angles, it was kind of hard for me because I don't really know how to map out angles that well. Like you see people in videos, like they just put wood together and all of a sudden they find the angle and it just fits together perfectly. So I just did a bunch of trial and error on my miter saw, and then once I made one that fit perfectly, that was my template to make the rest of the bevel pieces for the frame. And I think I used 2.5-inch screws or 2-inch screws, just stuff I had around the house. All the screws and everything I just had around the house. So just a little break from making the frame, I went ahead and replaced all the drywall because it had a lot of holes and stuff, and it would just be better to replace. So I put the new drywall up there, screwed it on, and put the knockdown texture, because that's what we have on our walls, and painted it. So here's what I was talking about earlier, making the bevel portions of the fireplace, and I had to find the angle for the outer portion and the angle for the inner portion, and I used one of those as a template to make more for that section. And when doing this, make some more to put in the left and right corners, because when you're putting the plywood down, I learned that I didn't have no support right there because it's just out in the open. Here's me adding the plywood onto the frame. Before I started this, I planned out everything on SketchUp to see if all my cuts can fit on the 4x8 sheet. So I added these triangular pieces in the top left and right corners to add more support to the plywood and just have something to drill into, because I didn't even think about drilling into the sheets of plywood right there where those two meet at that angle. So make sure you add that in when you're planning out your frame, because you're going to need something to actually drill into right there to make sure it stays down. So we're almost done with the frame, and I'm just trying it onto the fireplace to see what it looks like, and I like the way it looks. I just have to add some plywoods around the top and sides of the fireplace. And as far as the concrete at the bottom, we're going to rip up all the tile and the carpet to put wood floors at the bottom, and I kind of want the wood floors to pop through the bottom of the fireplace. I'll show you what it looks like. So I don't know why I added this at the end. Like, everything was pretty much done. I added the frame, and here I go, last minute, adding this extra portion of the frame, knowing that will be super hard to screw. I don't even know how I screwed that in there, but I made it in. I know it was difficult. But also, I wanted to say I use a staple gun for the plywood. Since it's so thin, the staples kind of held it in place for the parts that it was hard for me to like clamp or hold it together. So the staples just held it enough together so I can go back and get my drill and make that first drill to actually stabilize it and finish the rest. So when I was done, I took out all the staples that I put in there, because it would be hard to for the bronze sheet to attach once I was done with some of the staples just kind of poking out. I wanted to overlay my fireplace with bronze. It's an aluminum sheet with bronze on top. It's the satin bronze, and I got it from a distributor, McKillican, but the actual company is Chemetal. It's the Chemetal 912 satin bronze sheet, and you're going to need a special blade to cut with it, and this blade should be able to cut through aluminum and copper, and there's other stuff that it can cut through. I got it from Harbor Freight, so it was pretty decent priced. And I didn't want to show a lot of the background of me cutting. I got a 4x8 sheet of bronze, and I paid an extra $1 to $2 for backing. I don't really think you need it, because I think liquid nails can stick to metal, but in total it came to around $12.70 per square foot. And in total, the 4x8 sheet was $440, I believe, and some cents. And that price includes tax. When picking the sheet up from McKillican, they didn't have anybody on staff that could cut the sheet at the warehouse so it can fit into my car. So they told me this around pickup or so. So I just brought my circular saw with me and the blade, and they gave me a pallet, and I just cut it there on the warehouse floor. So like I said earlier, I don't know how to measure out angles that aren't already made. So here's me just like dry fitting and trying to figure out where the angle is, just doing trial and error to see how I can finesse the sheet of bronze. I think finesse is the right word, but yeah, it was a lot of back and forth until finally it fit. So I kind of overshot some parts so that I didn't waste this stuff, because pretty expensive, and I didn't have any extra pieces that were big enough to fit. I had a good amount of leftover parts, but not big enough to really like replace most of it. So I had to make sure these were on point. And also, whenever I cut, I made sure I laid the piece face down so that the front of the bronze wouldn't get messed up. Here's the type of glue that I use, the Loctite heavy duty glue. You're going to also need some weights to hold down the metal while it's curing. And make sure you wipe up all the excess that seeps out the sides before it cures and hardens, because it's just going to make it, a little worse. Don't be lazy. Just wipe it up now. So in the inner part of the frame, I used black wood stain because I thought it would add a little bit extra depth to the frame. So here's my friend pulling off the protection piece off the metal, which probably shouldn't have done because I didn't caulk it yet. But people were coming over, so we were just excited to get it off. I'm staining the inner portion of the fireplace, what I talked about earlier, with black wood stain. And to hold the fireplace to the wall, there's some screws angled into the house framing. On the exposed portions of the wood that I'm staining right now, I added some screws angled towards the wall and ensured that I hit a stud. But if you want the inner portions of the fireplace to be bronze, I think it would be best if you just made your frame onto the wall rather it be a separate and then add it later. Here's me caulking the fireplace. I just used brown caulk. And just do yourself a favor and just tape it up. It would make it so much cleaner and so much easier if you did that. Now this is the fireplace before we bought the house, and you see it's just too tall to put a TV up there. And here's it afterwards. I love the way the fireplace came out. Some things that I would do over again would be add some more supports just on the top right and left end of the fireplace. Also, I would incorporate more templates, use like a cardboard template to make sure I get the cuts right so I don't have to keep on doing it over again. And then finally, you can probably just build the frame onto the wall instead of just building it off the wall and putting it back. And this is how I made my fireplace. Thank you for watching. Bye.